Hey everyone, something a little bit different for you this week, which is I'm going to be chatting with my friend Spencer Fry. Spencer is the CEO and founder of Podia, which is a platform for creators to sell things like courses and webinars and do membership community sites, things like that. I met Spencer a number of years ago and found him to be super smart, very thoughtful, and he's building a very successful, fast-growing company. So I thought it would be awesome to have him on and chat about how he's doing that. Hope you enjoy. What's going on, Spencer?
Not too much. Enjoying some sunny weather today, finally.
Nice. It's awesome. So you are the founder of Podia, which is a platform for creators, people making things online.
Yeah, lots of them. The market really grew a lot last year. I mean, gets on that kind of thing. Yeah, it's been crazy and the product's been evolving a lot. So a lot of things going on right now.
Nice. Yeah, you and I met at MicroConf a couple years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and have sort of stayed in touch since then.
I think it's more like 4 or 5 years ago, but yeah,
God.
it's been a while. It's been a while. And then I saw you in New York like maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, that's right. Yep. Yeah, we hung out in New York a little bit. What triggered this, my thought of like, oh, I got to get Spencer on the podcast, was this tweet thread you did recently about the sort of post-product market fit phase of a company. As someone preparing to talk to you on a podcast, having your blog is quite a goldmine.
Thank you.
So going back and reading some of the stuff you've written is super helpful. But yeah, I wanted to chat about that. And you point out in that thread that like a lot of people don't talk about this phase as much. Like pre-product market fit seems to be like a lot of information, less afterwards. And you brought up some sort of interesting kind of more advanced level ideas, I guess, in that thread.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably because, most startups don't get to product market fit. So there's, fewer people to write about it. And like, once you do hit product market fit, you're so busy and your head's down that you don't think to like share your knowledge. So yeah, just recently I've been thinking about it a lot because so many things have been changing in our company over the last few years.
Totally. Yeah, I wanted to like get you on and spread more of this knowledge around this. So this whole thing, like this idea of there's lots of beginner content and then there's a lot less once you pass a certain difficulty level or commonality or something. I found this in programming content, like when I was making educational stuff. Like if you want to like a tutorial on building your first Rails app, there's just thousands of them. But if you want like, okay, it's been in production for 3 years, what are the trickier things I'm going to deal with now? So much less information out there for it.
Yeah, it's actually interesting too, because, we hit product market fit a couple years ago, but only recently we've really needed kind of more, what's the right word? Not advanced developers, but developers who have seen scale, because we're running into like some scale, not issues, but like they're on the horizon sort of thing. And yeah, you can't really find that much information about it. You really need to hire people that have gone through that and have experienced it themselves to kind of bring that to your company. So yeah, it's definitely an issue.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad to sort of put more of this advanced-ish kind of content out in the world. So I'm excited to dig into it. I thought we would maybe start by, since we're talking about a post-product market fit phase, just do you have a sort of off-the-cuff definition of, or like a feeling that you felt like when you sort of crossed that threshold?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have written about, what does it mean to hit product market fit? And I've seen all their definitions. And honestly, it's sort of just a feeling that you have as an entrepreneur and as like the CEO that you are, maybe you're getting more signups than you did last month, and they're not your friends, and they're like there's more word of mouth spreading, and like reviews are popping up on YouTube and like Capterra and all these things, and it's just like a lot of different things happening at once. The product is actually getting a lot of usage, et cetera. But I don't think there's necessarily a revenue milestone, and obviously it doesn't need to be that you're break even, but there's just this feeling that you have like, okay, we have something here. Now how do we scale it? That sort of thing. Like what kind of processes do we put in place to improve it? So yeah, it's just a feeling to me, honestly.
Gotcha. Yeah. Your thread came at a good time for me. I think it's fair to say we're past this point ourselves. And I've felt myself switching my mindset a bit, where it's like in the beginning, it's literally just like, is this going to work? Like, how do we make this work and hit like a certain revenue mark before we die? Like run out of money, I mean. And now it's less like, okay, it's definitely working. It's a real business. It's happening. And our team is also growing. So we're 8 people now. And so it's like, okay, there's just a whole different set of things to think about and pay attention to. And like the mode of what I should be thinking about and working on, I feel like is shifting pretty quickly.
Yep. And it's going to, change again once you double the team. It's almost like every like 5 to 10 people you add to the company just completely changes things, especially like post product market fit. It's a serious challenge that, again, like no one writes about. So I'm happy that we can talk about it a little bit.
Totally. And yeah, by the way, people, if they're interested in this, should like go check out your blog. You've written like a lot of good stuff on this just at spencerfry.com. We can link to that. I'll be pulling some bits of your posts into this conversation, but it's actually really worth reading them in their entirety. One highlight on that thread about this post-product market fit time is you've switched your thinking to be more about long-term building. So you're thinking like you're making more strategy docs and deep brainstorming sessions and really focusing on like nailing the value proposition over the long term. Can you talk more about that?
Just for context, I started this company about 6.5 years ago. For the first year and a half, it was just myself. And then we started hiring people. And it was about 2.5 years ago when we actually hit product market fit. But for those first few years, it was just like doing and building anything that our customers wanted. We probably spent 20% of the time building things that kind of aligned with our roadmap that wasn't requested, but for the rest of the time, it was really like, I need an export of that. Okay, let's go build the export. I need like transcriptions or something like. So we just really reacted to our customer feedback, and I think was really helpful in those early days. But now, once you hit product market fit, you get so many customers that are requesting so many different things that you sort of have to sit back and take a minute and think about like, okay, what is the company and the product that I want to build? What is it that my team wants to build? Where do we want to head? Who are our best customers? Customers that signed up in the first few years are not our best customers today. So there's just a lot of things that you have to consider as you start to scale.
I love this idea of these sort of strategy memos going out and kind of thinking about long-term planning. I think this is actually a weakness. This is something I'm working on. Like I want to do a better job of. Do you have a cadence that you have for these? Like, what do these look like?
So it's only been the last 2 years when we started writing these strategy docs. And so the end of 2019 was the first time I wrote one. And I wrote this product strategy doc. And also our marketing department wrote like marketing strategy for 2020. So for both of us. And actually, I'll talk more about that in a second. But this year, we actually did one for support. And we also did one for dev, which is slightly different than product. So we actually had 4 big, massive strategy docs for all of 2021. But typically, like we set out with some goals, and those goals, our first time doing this, were a lot more, metrics driven, revenue driven, that kind of thing. And we've actually sort of scrapped that component because it's really hard to anticipate like what your revenue is going to be a year from now, et cetera. And we've made it more about focused around like things that we want to do for the year. Like what are those like 1 or 2 like main focus points for us? And I don't think it's giving anything away to say it. So we have 2 on the product side. The first one is that we want to build out more community features to compete in the market for around this idea of community. And the second one is to get back to a place where we can pivot on a dime and be able to develop smaller features faster. So we've been doing like a lot of back-end work this year. We're going to be doing a lot to get back to that point. So for product anyway, those are our 2 main goals. And obviously we're going to do a lot more, but they're not like revenue metrics driven anymore.
The second one is super interesting to me because in the early days, you kind of go from like customer submits a support ticket, co-founder, CTO sees it, writes the fix, ships it 30 minutes later kind of thing. Is that the kind of vibe that you're talking about in that second goal, is going back to those?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. So we've been going through this massive rework where we were on Bootstrap 3, our whole CMS, our whole admin, and we've been migrating everything to Bootstrap 4. So it's been a massive project that's taken like well over a year. Well, it's also with like brand new design and stuff like that. So we're almost done and almost wrapped up that project. And once that's ready, we've built all these like component libraries. We've got this whole Podia UI thing that we've built up, and it's fantastic, and it makes us move really, really quickly. And so the idea around that second goal for us is finish that project so that we can, again, start to do those little small improvements that, creators are, that's what we call our customers request, and just get back to that like really quick, market movement, pivot fast on like new things coming up. So.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. And then the other thing you said I'm curious about is you got away from revenue goals. I've been thinking of like, okay, we should probably have a revenue goal for the year and like use that to kind of orient or like track our progress and whatnot. You got away from that just because it's hard to predict. Is that sort of why?
We still have a company revenue goal. So that's mainly in like the product strategy doc where, I was putting in a bunch of figures, like we want conversion rate to go up and we want like usage of this part of the product to go up, stuff like that. We do have one or two like company goals. One is sort of like a year-long one, then another one is a 5-year goal. And those are loosely tied to revenue. The 1-year one is more tied to revenue, but I stripped that away from like the product strategy, the marketing strategy docs, that kind of thing, because it sort of gets in the way of doing things like not just for the numbers.
Yeah. I have mixed feelings about like numerical goals like that. Like I appreciate the trackability and like, how are we on target? How are we doing? It's a clear kind of line in the sand. But I have also kind of debated like the degree to which it maybe makes you too focused on this number that is kind of an output metric as opposed to the input metric.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And, I think part of it too is we hit profitability last summer. So we're not as stressed out about, revenue growth. Like that being said, it's still very important that we grow. And I've got, ambitions, goals for the next year to 5 years, et cetera. But I feel like this year is sort of like a reset year for us in the sense that like we want to get back to like being who we are and defining, what processes we care about, like what customers that we care about, what parts of the product that we care about, that sort of thing. So it's sort of like I'm taking a year to sort of relax a bit from the grind of, getting profitable, getting a product market fit, et cetera.
One of these other topics in your tweet there that I liked a lot was you said we'd keep growing even if we took our hands off the wheel. But whenever I addressed the team, I'd reinforce that we'd never be complacent. I know very well from previous startups how letting complacency seep in can lead you to being on top one day and not the next.
Yeah. I've had a few different startups in the past, but 2 of them come to mind where we were market leaders and we were growing really fast. And then we sort of took our foot off the gas and sort of like, we're, everything's good. Like, let's just relax. Let's hang out, it's all good, whatever, we'll ship that on time. We won't ship it on time. Who cares? And in both cases, we got past, a couple years later. And I want to say that wasn't all on my co-founder's fault. But, I definitely really from those past experiences, like really care about continuing to push forward and never letting any sort of like goal that you hit make you complacent. So I tell the team all the time, it's like, yes, we're profitable, but like tomorrow another startup could come up or whatever, anything could happen. So you just kind of got to keep moving.
This is kind of to me, the brutal part of running a business is that there's no arrival and like, all right, you're good now. You now are unassailable. Everything's just guaranteed to be okay from now on. It's kind of like you're always at threat. You're always out there in the, on the Serengeti and like you don't know what's lurking around the corner.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just small companies like ours, big companies too face the same issues like Facebook and Twitter and all these companies face it. So especially in our market too, which like the creator economy is, beginning to sort of quote unquote blow up. And there's new startups that are launching like every day on product hunts or like, new startups getting huge rounds of financing and stuff like that. So we try to stay like really focused on just improving the product and growing. And every week, every day, we got to be shipping, better marketing, better everything. But it's fun.
Yeah. Having a successful business is so gratifying and has all these great positive things about it that I really love. And the trade-off that you're accepting is just like, it's not chill. It's not like you get there and you're good and just hang out. Exactly.
Yeah. Especially to like, we're VC backed. So our investors are really happy with our progress. They're, it's awesome you hit product market fit. It's awesome that you're profitable, et cetera. But, they're still wanting more. Like we still have board meetings 4 times a year and we're still, showing off our numbers and showing off our growth. But they're always like, how can you grow faster? How can you get bigger? So there's always also that like outside pressure for us.
Another topic in here that I really enjoyed or like kind of resonated with me was moving to like aggregate feedback from customers versus so much like paying attention to every individual feedback data point you got. I definitely have noticed that in myself already. I read the incoming support requests and the feature requests and things like that. And I'm like, I kind of let it wash all over me. Whereas in the early days, it was more like, okay, someone asked for a thing. We probably should just jump on this immediately.
Yeah, definitely. We now have like tens of thousands of customers, so it's just really difficult when someone writes in, for a feature request. And also, honestly, sometimes with bugs too. Sometimes someone will have some obscure bug, and it affects maybe 5 of our tens of thousands of customers, and it's like difficult to find the time to fix those things, just because like resources are scarce, and we try to build and fix things that affect the majority of customers. And it's tough to sort of go down those paths of like, oh, let me fix that like really small bug, or let me fix that like really small feature, or let me create that really small feature for you that may not affect the entire customer base. So I'm very cognizant about thinking about what has the highest impact for the most people that use our platform.
We get constant like call quality feedback reports. Like people will be like, oh, that was a 2-star out of 5 call because this issue. And I'm always like, oh, damn, that sucks. Like I want to fix this. And it's like, well, we got so few, bad call feedbacks this week. It's like fixing this problem would do almost nothing to like move our aggregate score. Or like people will request a thing and I'll be like, yeah, we totally should do that. That's just a good thing, but it is niche. It's like a small thing. And so being kind of okay with the fact that like there's just a bunch of rough edges and bugs and things like that we know could be better, but being okay with not prioritizing them yet.
We've been constantly for the last like 2 or 3 years evolving our bug system as an example. So, pre-product market fit, we tried to never let it kind of accumulate too many bugs. We always try to fix all the bugs. We didn't want to get a reputation for like buggy software, but now with like tens of thousands of customers and tens of millions of people accessing the platform every month, like we get these really strange bugs, and we have to prioritize them based on how are they affecting the customers as an aggregate whole. And it's definitely been a big change since hitting product market fit, whereas before we were really trying to fix every little thing. And we've actually had to create like even another system too, where we now separate bugs into like big bugs versus like small bugs. And the big bugs are the ones that are really affecting a lot of creators, and the ones that we have to like jump on ASAP. And by the way, we're talking about bugs a lot. Like we don't have that many bugs. Every product has bugs. So
of course. Yeah, totally. So something I want to dig into a bit is this idea of, or like, how would you describe the operating system for your business? And like one piece of this that I happen to know about, because you've talked about it before, is like this weekly email that you have. Mm-hmm. If you talked about the core pieces, what are the main things that like let Podia be a thing? What are the big components there?
Yeah. So, in terms of processes that we have in place.
Yeah, I'm curious. Processes, standing meetings, feedback systems, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it all sort of starts with the weekly email I send out. So I typically write this on Saturday morning when I first wake up with my coffee, and I take a look at Basecamp. And what all of our developers do is they leave like a little end of week progress update as to like what they worked on the past week, et cetera, which is valuable. But what's even more valuable is recently we've started this new system where there's basically a project lead, and we call them the champion. And so say we're working on, so for example, we just launched this new update to our site editor. So there was a group of people working on there. There's one champion. And at the end of that week, that champion gives us a status update on that project. And so then what I do is I look at what all the champions write. So typically we have like maybe 3 different projects going on. I summarize those in like a little product section at the top of the email. And then our marketing person, who are CMO, they write me an email also, and I put that into my email as well. So like a full marketing update, content, data projects we have in place, et cetera. And then we also have a support section too, where we just sort of recap the previous week, how well we did based on like certain metrics, like time to first response, et cetera, things that we care about. So I put all those together. And then I finally will have like this little miscellaneous section too, where I'll give like hiring updates, et cetera. So I'll send that out on like a Saturday. And then Monday, we have our first meeting, which is at noon, our first and only meeting, I should say. And typically this lasts about 10 to 12 minutes. I try to go really fast. The goal is actually under 10 minutes. Whenever it's under 10 minutes, like high five myself. But every single champion will give like a quick 30 seconds to a minute recap of what they're working on. So that's like the cornerstone. That's our only weekly meeting where the entire team is on. And then
And are people
yeah.
distributed? Do you have like people in a bunch of different time zones? Is that why it's at noon?
Yeah, we have people in all different time zones. So, everywhere from California all the way to Bulgaria. So it's,
Okay. Yep.
I think we're like 15 or 16 people in the US, and the rest are outside the US. That email is sort of the cornerstone. It sort of sets the pace. It gives everyone an overview of like what's happening across all of our departments. And then other than that, like we really just keep Basecamp pretty up to date. I mean, all of our projects that are there, all of our bugs are there, all of our like support stuff is there, et cetera.
You get the content from the email Friday-ish. Saturday, you write this up. You send it out on Monday morning or over the week?
I actually send it as soon as I read it. Yeah, I send it as soon as I read it. Yeah.
Got it. So that's like, okay, here's what happened in the last week in the product, in the various areas of the company.
It's not necessarily like, so in support, it's what happened last week. In marketing, it's what happened last week, but it's also forward looking too. So like these are the projects that are in process, both on the product side, both and on the marketing side. Support is mostly just like a look back. But yeah, I send that out. I don't anticipate that people read it until Monday, but I think some of them do. But actually, I've heard a lot from a lot of our employees that they actually really like reading it on like Sunday, because it sort of just gets them their mindset ready for the week, and then it's like they can just sort of absorb it all and kind of get ready to work on Mondays.
Do you ever have sections in that where it's like Spencer's current thought, like here's what's top of mind for me or something like that?
Every once in a while, I'll just write a separate email to the team or like a Basecamp update. We've gone pretty crazy with Basecamp over the last 2 years, and now like we just do everything in there because we're very, very async culture. Like we don't like jumping on video calls and that stuff too often. For example, recently, actually yesterday, I sent out a Basecamp update to the entire team, basically as a product strategy update as to like what we set off on January 1st, 2021, like where do things stand? So it's sort of like, I think the topic was 1 month in, 11 months to go in the year. And like, here's where all the projects stand. Some things are getting shifted slightly. These all shipped and these went well, et cetera. But yeah, we don't do that many like broader team updates outside of that weekly email.
Gotcha. Okay. And so then people are like kind of caught up based on the email, and then there's the Monday meeting. And this is like a little bit of a chance for the champions to kind of brag a little or sort of update the company on how things are going. Yep.
And that's actually a concept we stole from Shopify. I don't know if we do it exactly the same way that they do it, but every project at Shopify has a champion. And that's just the person that's sort of like the go-to and writes the updates and, lets support know if they need like new help docs, or lets marketing know if there's, something that needs to be announced.
Nice. Okay. So the champions talk, and they say that's kind of seems like that's forward looking, like here's what we're doing kind of thing.
Yeah. So it might be like 20% recap of the previous week, and then like the rest is sort of like, here's where the project is. This is what we're gonna be working on. We anticipate it shipping maybe Wednesday or Thursday. So yeah, it's pretty much just forward looking, and it gives everyone a chance, at least the champions, to have some mic time, which is nice, especially if you're like a remote company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I remember you saying like you like that it gives a lot of people a chance to talk, not just you.
Yeah, exactly. I actually mostly act as like MC now, which is kind of funny. Mm-hmm. I used to sort of give more of the update, and now I'm like, okay, Ben, why don't you update us on this? And then Ben will chat and kind of go down the list. And then I always tell everyone, see you on Slack. Have a great week at the end.
Nice. Do you feel like you have to cut people off to keep them terse?
No, because everyone loves it. Everyone loves having short meetings, I think. So, they kind of like play the game. They're like, okay, like how fast can I give this update?
I love it. That's cool. Yeah. And so beyond this Monday thing, there's no standing recurring meetings going on.
Yeah, no standing recurring meetings other than, one-on-ones, which is not, exactly the same thing. We do one-on-ones once a month, which I feel like is a good cadence. I'm not a fan of like once a week personally, or even every 2 weeks. So we do every month. But other than that, we have no standing meetings. Yeah.
Why does that feel like the right cadence to you?
I just don't think there's enough to talk about, every week. And I think if you're, on top of things as a manager, that door's always open. So like, Ben can always talk to me if he wants to, but having that sort of monthly cadence almost makes the meeting more important. That's, we haven't spoken in a month, like what's gone on with you, like how are things going, et cetera, et cetera. And it gives you a better time to like, Say you want someone to work on something, 30 days is a pretty good amount of time to work on that thing. And then the manager can like bring it up at their next one-on-one.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been doing weekly one-on-ones, and I would say that maybe does kind of feel too often. Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, we almost did every 2 weeks, and then I was just like, I don't know if I want more meetings. So it's part of it's selfish.
Sure. Are we missing any other parts of the Podia operating system?
Yeah, there's a couple other things. So we actually do quarterly team meetings. I forgot to mention that. So that's actually somewhat new, maybe like about a year old. So the product team will meet at the start of a quarter. The marketing team will meet at the start of a quarter. And actually support does monthly meetings because they do more things like they'll do like retrains and things like that, which are kind of cool. So, this is how we deal with these types of requests and that kind of thing. So, and then once a quarter, I also present the board deck to the entire team. And that meeting actually ends up lasting more like 45 minutes. But that's during our weekly as well. Yeah.
Massive.
I know. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
What are those team meetings like?
So the team meetings, we typically just talk about like the quarterly strategy. So what I'll do is I'll take that yearly strategy doc that I started in December and sent to the team on the start of January. I'll sort of progress update that and kind of cut it slightly and talk about like, okay, what are we doing for Q2? And just get everyone on the same page there. But yeah, I mean, I also will post monthly updates. Actually, one other thing we do, which this is new, but I'll post a monthly update at the beginning of the month, basically just for the marketing team to know what we plan on releasing that month so that they can make sure that they prep like any videos we want to include with announcements, like write any emails, make sure they're writing articles that touch on that subject, that kind of thing. So that's mostly just to keep them informed though.
Do you do anything to get people kind of socializing with each other, getting to know each other, feeling connected to the group?
Yep. And before I jump on that, I remembered one other thing we do is we do have a leadership team meeting every 2 weeks. So our CMO, our CTO, and our head of support.
That's high level, what's going on, or any big problems happening, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So sometimes it'll be like people problems, like, maybe someone on the support team is, not doing super well and needs some support. So that person will be like, hey, like there's this problem, how do you think we should address it? That kind of thing. More often than not, just tends to be like updates across departments, knowledge sharing, that sort of thing. Gotcha.
So we've got weekly all hands after the Spencer email, got monthly team meetings, monthly one-on-ones, and then bi-monthly leadership team meeting.
Exactly. And then quarterly board meeting updates. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of social stuff, we do quite a bit actually. So we started using this program called Donut. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like has a nice Slack integration. So we have this buddies channel that we created in Slack. And then every 2 weeks you get paired with someone. For example, I just spoke to someone on customer support yesterday for the first time, and you just hang out and chat for like half an hour. And it was cool because I hadn't talked to that person in a year since I interviewed them. I mean, obviously, chit-chatted on Slack and sort of thing like that, but not like sat down and spoke to this person. I learned like they're in Brazil and learned like so much about them, and it was really fun. So we do those every 2 weeks. They're not mandatory. So I think out of the 24 people on the team, I think about 17 or 18 people have opted into it, which is totally cool. Like I understand that some people just don't want to do that kind of thing, and I'm not going to force it on them.
Yeah. And that's 18 out of like 24-ish. Is that about how big you are these days?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 24. Hiring developers though.
Yeah,
everyone else in the world.
Rails devs and senior Rails devs, I saw.
Yep.
Cool. Another random thought I had as you were talking, you have these strategy docs, like the yearly strategy doc. I'm guessing strategy is contrasted to tactical. Like it's a kind of a high level guide rather than very specific things in there. Is that accurate?
So the most recent one, there's those kind of like high level goals that we want to, achieve for the year. And then that's sort of broken down into like certain priorities that will help us achieve those goals. So most oftentimes those are like product things that we want to ship, but they're still pretty high level. Last year it was something like release a new site editor so that we can like favorably compare ourselves to the market in terms of design options and sort of thing like that. And then, it's pretty high level. There might be some specific things in there, but then typically when we get to one of those things, I'll spin up a base camp project. I'll write a little bit about like, what are we hoping to do? And then I'll like meet with our designer and we'll jump into Figma and start, sketching things out. Then we'll bring more people on the team, bring in the champion, et cetera. But we don't have like a very stringent product spec system. We kind of just start getting into it and start building, for better or for worse.
Yeah. Are you still doing product stuff?
Yeah, that's where I'd like to spend most of my days, thinking through all those sorts of things. I do a lot of things, honestly, but that is my favorite thing. I love product. I love working with customers. I love talking to customers. I still do weekly demos for new customers every Tuesday. But that's where I spend most of my time. I think at some point soon, I'm going to need some assistance there. But I have a CEO coach, and one of the things I've been talking about with her recently is like, the things that make me happy, I want to spend more time doing. And she's sort of like, do that. And so product is like the thing I love. So I don't see myself giving it up at any point.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That's cool. Yeah, that's the sustainability of making sure your day is things you like. It seems pretty important.
Yeah. Because there's only so many, emails and meetings and, like business stuff and accounting that I can do all day and not want to like quit.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
One thing that stood out to me, and maybe I just misread this, but I think in one of your posts I saw there was a phase where you were 19 people, and you were talking about managers, and you said that our CMO is managing a team of 7. Is that true that at one point you were 19 people, 7 of which were in marketing?
I think that was our CTO, maybe.
Okay.
Or maybe not. So yeah, our CMO also did manage quite a few people, but like since then, I don't know exactly what date that was, but we have added more managers and things like that. And we have more like processes around that. We've got like more Slab. We use Slab for internal company documentation. So we have much more documentation around that.
Well, just the thing that stood out to me was actually the ratio of is Podia 40% marketing today?
So we are 9 people in product, not including myself. So the designer and all the devs. We're 10 customer support.
So you include engineer, like development in product?
Yeah, technically, like they're on the product dev team. Yeah, which is it's like dev team. They're on the dev team, but like we just call it product. So we have 9 people on that team, 10 people on support, and then the remaining 5 people are in marketing. Yeah.
Okay. So that ratio seems to have shifted a lot, or I misread or something.
Yeah. I don't know if it shifted too much, but maybe like I was off on the numbers or something. But
Sure.
That's correct. But yeah, we have another manager on our dev team. We have another manager on our marketing team. We have another manager on our support team. So yeah, I think we have like 7 managers, if that includes myself, in total.
The manager thing was interesting to me because you mentioned at one point that you've always been an extremely productive company.
Yeah.
And then adding a management layer allowed you to keep being productive as you grew, and it didn't like slow you down or bog you down.
Yeah. And one thing that we're very clear about, and we have like internal documents about this, is that managers are, their main responsibility is still like individual contributors. So we don't have people that are just managers. Like we have people that maybe spend 20% of their time on like management things, outside of like myself, the CMO, CTO, et cetera. Like they're spending more time managing, but that sort of middle layer, whatever you would call it, we tend to not want them to go over like a 20% sort of threshold. And so they're still spending like 80% of their time on individual contributions, but they might be slightly different contributions too. So like our manager in support has additional responsibilities that she does that's outside of just being in the queue.
So as I was reading through your sort of growth over the years, it seemed like a consistent theme was documenting processes over time.
Yeah.
Like switching more to writing versus kind of an oral history or sort of here's how we do it. If you ask Spencer, he'll tell you kind of thing in a bunch of different ways. This point seemed to come up over and over at various different sizes and times.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. last year we added quite a few people, and the year before that as well. And I think once we hit that like 10 employee mark, it became too difficult to share knowledge amongst everyone unless we wrote it down. So we signed up for this company that I like a lot called Slab, and they're pretty inexpensive, slab.com. And they've got a great like internal wiki that you can set up. And so now we just document everything from like how we work, to how managers work at Podia, to like hiring process, to onboarding, to like everything, all the way down to like if a developer fixes a bug that's really small, they'll even put that in our Slab so that another developer in the future can find that thing. So we're really, really careful about documenting processes because we have a pretty complicated product, technically anyway.
Mm-hmm. Do you say Podia or Podia?
Podia. So it's the plural form of podium, Podia. But like, honestly, sometimes I say it both ways.
Okay. I was just like, oh man, have I been pronouncing this company wrong the whole time?
Yeah, it's like, I don't mind.
Okay, cool. This is how I feel about tuple and tuple for what it's worth.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to write for both of us, and that's all that matters because it's the internet.
Yep, exactly. Totally. Any other thoughts you have about kind of the operating system or things you're doing or that kind of thing? That's such a terrible question.
No. I think one of the things that's always fascinated me is that we do a lot of these things that no other companies do at our size, and I don't understand it. So I don't know if that's a huge insight, but I really recommend documenting things. I really recommend having an internal wiki. I really recommend like having processes in place for everything. Yeah.
Gotcha. So write more stuff down.
Yeah, write more stuff down, and then continue to update it too. I think that's a big part of it. Is the thing that you wrote a year ago is probably out of date, and so like every 6 months or something, we're actually I go through like all the docs with our CMO, who also does a lot of COO type things, and we kind of make sure that they're all up to date, et cetera. So in for example, we have like a whole onboarding process, and we recently updated that as well because things have changed.
Nice. Yeah, that seems good. We definitely have gone through various phases of like, let's document this, and then it gets a little stale for sure. It seems to be that I think that go back and review it thing is probably a critical part of actually making the documentation work. Yeah.
And the funny thing too is like whenever we onboard a new developer, we have them update the README and everything. Just simple processes like that like really, really help.
Totally. No, I like that. That's cool. Awesome. Well, anything else you want to cover before we wrap up?
No, I think, if anyone has any questions about post-product market fit stuff, let me know. I think I have a lot more to say about it, but I need to like think about it more, and maybe I'll write another blog post or something.
Nice. That'd be great. Yeah. So on Twitter, you're just Spencer Fry, Fry. People can follow you. I recommend that. You post interesting stuff, and yeah, we'll link to your blog and your Twitter and whatnot so people can check you out if they're so inclined.
Thank you. Yeah. Happy to help.
Cool. Thanks, man. Thanks for dropping by. It was great chatting with you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Take care. If you want to find show notes for this episode, you can go to artofproductpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.